Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Writers Chat. We are so glad to have you with us today. I'm Johnny Alexander, one of the co-hosts, and I'm joined by Melissa Stowe and Brandy Bro. Excuse me. Really glad to have everybody here. And our very special guest, one of our favorites, who comes back so often to teach us all that she knows, which is a lot because she's been in the industry for quite a bit. Michelle Madlock Adams is here, the New York Times best-selling ghostwriter and an award-winning author of more than 100 books, which is amazing, including Fly High, Our God is Bigger Than That, and Dachshund Through the Snow, which is, of course, an adorable title. Michelle is married to her high school sweetheart, Jeff, and they have two married daughters, six adorable grandchildren, two diva dolphins, and two kittens. And she's here today to talk to us about what she has learned from going from the writing side of the industry to the publishing side, because she's now an acquisitions editor for an imprint called Wren and Bear, and that's with Endgame Press. So, Michelle, we're just going to turn it over to you because we're all very eager to hear what you have to share with us this morning.
Well, thank you, Johnny, for that sweet introduction. I love you so much. I haven't seen you forever. It's so good to see your face. Bethany's mama, we bonded many years ago, but I hate that I don't get to see everybody as much as I used to. I don't get out from behind the desk as much as I'd like. That's one of the things I've learned is it's not as much fun as you think it'd be. It's a lot of work over on this side of the desk. Not that it's not as a writer, but I'm doing both of those things. And I think I need some therapy of some kind, but it's a quick, crazy ride. I will say, being on this side of the desk, I've done the writers conferences where you take the 15-minute appointments for years, and they always put this badge on me that says professional writer, which remember the first time they handed me one, I was like, are you sure? Like, is there another title maybe that we could have of some sort? It just seems so like professional writer. Is that really what I am? And then after a few years, you sort of go, well, I guess maybe I am. I guess I could be that. Yeah, all right. And you sort of settle into that. But 2 years ago, when this all happened and I was made the senior editor of Wren and Bear books, and the acquisitions thing started happening, and Victoria Dursock gave me the opportunity with her publishing company, Endgame Press. My first conference was Florida Christian Writers Conference, and I've been going there for years. I love Eva Marie. I would do anything for her. Eva Marie Everson, who runs the conference, and she said, "Oh, here's your name badge, and you'll be in the editor's room." And I almost passed out. I'm like, again, I was like, "Are you sure?" It came full circle for me, and so it's been exciting, and it's been overwhelming, and I'm so grateful to God for the opportunity. But I will say that after about 6 months in, I called one of my longtime editors at Worthy Publishing, Peggy Schaefer, who's a friend of mine. I mean, I would take a bullet for Peggy. She's just that person. Gave me a chance on my children's books many, many, many years ago. And I've been through 4 company changes with her. That's how far back we go. When it was Ideals Children's Books, and then it went to Guideposts, and then it went to Worthy, and now it's Hachette, which is Worthy's an imprint. But yeah, lots of things. And I just said, hey, I just wanted to tell you kind of the news going on before they announced it, industry wide. I wanted to tell her what had been going on. And then I said, and then I'd like to take at least 10 minutes to apologize for all the things I didn't say thank you for, or I assumed were normal things, or that I just took it for granted. I was like, I just want to fall at your feet in mercy right now. Like, I think you're amazing, and I am so sorry for all the times I didn't appreciate you. She was like, well, thank you very much. I have to say this is the first kind of a call like this. And I said, well, it won't be the last. And she's somebody I can pick her brain in the industry about when I have editor kind of questions. But it's a different role. And I think being in the industry as long as I have, with many, many, many years. I think my first book came out in like 2001 or something. Yeah, 2001. There's a lot of things that you assume as a writer that the editors and the publishers are going to do for you that really are just assumptions. They're not truth statements. And as the industry's changed, and those of you who've been in it a bit with me, you know that in the last 5 years, things have gotten a little hairier, a little different. And we are asked as writers to do a whole lot more promoting and marketing than ever before. Back in the good old days of publishing, I would just show up at like those events, the big, well, now they're called, what is it? They keep changing. It used to be CBA, and now it's ICRS, and then it was just, they've changed it. Now it's CRA, but all the initials, those big events have all the Christian publishing houses. And I would just show up and I'd have a cute little gift for my editor. And I would just show up with my Polar Pop in hand and my signing pens and just sign books and visit with all the people getting the books and do a couple of pictures. And they'd take me to lunch and that usually to dinner. And then I would fly home and then I'd work on my next manuscript. Those were just fun days. They didn't ask me to do anything, social media or wise or anything. They did all of that. And I didn't even know there were press releases going out. Oh, I was oblivious to all of it. Now, if they asked me to, I could write my own press release because I did some of that, as a journalist, but I didn't know all the things that they were doing for me. Now that I've put together my own publishing house booth, I don't know if you saw any of those things back in February. We went to the CPE, the Christian Public thing, or Christian Publishing, what's it called, Expo, and they have a winter one and they have a summer one. And the winter one's a little bit smaller, and it was in Columbus, Georgia this year in February. Well, Victoria Duerstock handles all of that. She gets the booth and she orders all the things, and I've always helped her put the things together, all the furniture. Like I was Bob the Builder for the first time in my life. But this particular show, she's like, hey, I don't want to freak you out or anything. And I was in Texas when she called me. But I'm going to be in New York at another show. We got an opportunity, a booth space came open. So I'm going to need you to run the one in Columbus. I was like, I'm sorry, come again? I was like, did you say I had to run it? Oh, no. But God was faithful, and I learned that you can do things you didn't know you could do. So we got the booth put together, and it went well. I prayed I think an angel came and helped me with some of the bigger pieces, but it all worked out. So all I'm saying is I thought I just showed up and signed books, and I didn't know all the stuff that went into all the things that had to happen before I got there. So I think one of the first things I'd like to share about crossing over to the other side is it's so important to be a team player with your publisher, with your editor. And this sounds like, well, yeah, Michelle, that's kind of the golden rule, but you'd be surprised. And even in Christian publishing, not everybody operates by those rules. There are a lot of diva dudes and divas that show up sometimes. And I repent if I've ever been the diva, because, I have those tendencies. So I just want to say that being a team player is a big thing. Being very communicative with your editor and with your publisher, being someone that shows up on time. That's always been a thing for me. Being somebody that will actually support you in all of the things. So at Endgame Press, which is a little bit different than I work for a lot of the bigger publishers too, I work as a writer. It's a little bit different with a mid-size. Endgame would be a mid-size publisher at this point, but you don't always have those team meetings where you have maybe all the authors on a call and or those Facebook groups with just that particular author family. That's not always the case. I know several of the mid-sized to smaller companies have that now, and I think that's really important. But when your publisher offers that, join those things. You'd be surprised how much we notice if you don't. It's like, where is so-and-so? Is she MIA? Does she not like us anymore? Why is she not in the group? Because we want you to be a part of us. It's a family, and all those late nights that we're spending editing your stuff and finding just the perfect illustrator if it's a children's book, and making sure that we've got you in the right magazines and buying the right ads and all those things I didn't know were going on that I now know because I'm doing those. You really would like those people to be part of that and to be excited about all of those things. And so when we share things in the group and there's crickets, you're like, oh, okay. Well, maybe everybody was just busy, and like it's not that we're needy, but the authors are needy, and so it's like there should be a two-way street. I guess one of the main point of this be a team player is if just do unto others as you'd have them do to you. The golden rule thing is if you were the editor or the publisher investing a lot of money and a lot of time, that what you would expect from your authors. And so I see now, like I'm always like, what else can I do? Is there something else? Can I carry your purse? Can I I just realized now how many hours like Peggy Schaefer and some of the others who's spoken into my life and given me a chance and helped me when nobody else would, what the hours that they gave to me. And I love giving back, but it's just really nice when everybody's on the same team and there's no adversity. And I know it's the world, and there's going to be some times when people don't agree with edits and things like that. But when we can all be like on the same team and work through it and know that we all are in game, our goal is to make everybody happy and to ultimately sell the book. That's because I'll talk about that a little bit later, but it is a ministry, especially in Christian publishing. Let's be honest. None of us are doing this because we're going to get rich. If you're going into publishing to get rich, you are in the wrong profession, my friend. This is not that. I've made a good living doing this, but I've worked my guts out. I could have probably done anything else in the world and made more money than I have as a writer, but it's a calling for me. It's not just a job. And I think it probably is for all of you too, or you wouldn't be here on a Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday morning, depending on where you live. But I think it's important that in all of that, you have to realize that if the publisher doesn't sell books and we don't stay in the black, then we can't do more ministry. So it is business and ministry. They are equally important. And if you're not aware of that, you might not be wanting to help so much. So it's tough if you've never been on the other side to know those things. And that's why at Endgame, I think Victoria has been a really great example of how she will just be really honest. She does these video kind of updates every so often. I think once a quarter, we're having everybody jump on a Zoom call. We just had one a couple of weeks ago to give some big industry updates with our company. But I think one of the things that I've noticed is when she does these video things, she's really sharing her heart. It's not just, these are some things I need you to do. It's her saying, hey, this is where I believe God's leading us. And I just want your prayer backing on this. And I want you to know how grateful I am that y'all took a chance on Endgame, and now look what God is doing. And it's more of a rah thing where we're all just connected. We call it Endgame the author army because we're kind of brother in arms or sisters in arms. We're all together and we're helping each other and we're sharing each other's memes for release day. And when somebody wins an award, we all celebrate it, even though we're against each other in many of the categories. We're like happy for each other. It's that. And it's not like that at every publishing house. So I can only speak to the one I'm working with at this point, working for. But man, it is different when you see it on the other side, when you feel not very appreciated. And I'm not saying that because it's not like Victoria and I are really going, well, I'll tell you one thing she doesn't appreciate is she's not getting another contract. It's none of that. It's just it makes me want to be more proactive in seeing how I can be grateful and helpful and not just to the publisher and the editor, but also to my fellow authors who are at the same house. I mean, I don't know many of them at some of the bigger houses where I've got books, but I know the ones at the mid-sized publishers, and I want to support them as well. So it's just, I kind of call that the Julie Lavender rule. Anybody who knows Julie knows that she is the sharingest person ever. She will share memes for you all day long. She's on everybody's release team, and not because she's trying to earn points. That's just who she is. She's just that nice. We should all be more like Julie, kind of like, what would Julie do? It could be the same initials. What would Jesus do? It's got the same thing. What would Julie do? Well, she would share things and she would promote and be excited for her fellow authors. So that, and you're right. Someone said, Leslie said, yeah, the body of Christ is supposed to be unified. Yeah, that's exactly right. We are. So, and yes, Julie's the best. I'm a big fan of Julie. We love her. And the video chats are helpful, Josie. I think so too. I'm reading some of the comments as we go. Okay, so just number one, just to be a team player, just to show up and do all the things that you know to do as a professional. And I can send this handout. I did like a little handout. I can send it to you if y'all want it. You may not care. I want to have a hand. I always have to have a handout. Okay, number two is, and this is sort of like under the be a team player, is what I just said about myself is not to be a diva dude or a diva, which is, I think I'm speaking from experience. In order to get future contracts, whether you're working with a small publisher or a bigger publisher, hit the deadlines and don't fuss over every word. Like, oh my gosh, you changed that to A. I just don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to lose sleep over this. And I've taught this at writers' conferences as a writer for years, about, I always have a funny line in one of my workshops, never anger the editors. And it but now I'm like, yeah, don't do that. I mean, I've said that for years, but let me put an exclamation point on that, is just to, of course, fight for the things in your manuscript that you feel are really important. If somebody didn't get it, who's your editor, and they've come back and said, hey, I think you need to change this, and you really feel like, hey, you just didn't get it. This is super important to me. This really needs to stay this way, and this is why. Rather than just being mad and going off and talking ugly, just come back and let's have a conversation, because we want it to be good. We want you to be happy, but we just need to be adults and actually speak through things and say, let's make this the best for everybody. So, because bottom line is, there's going to be some controversy on edits. I mean, ain't nobody like edits. I mean, come on. When I get a bunch of red marks on my stuff, or I see all these comments, I'm like, oh no, this is going to be a really bad day. I mean, that's when I'm going for some chocolate and a cherry Pepsi before I can just come back to be, sane. I rarely hit except all. I'm just being honest. So that's not that we're saying just roll over and play dead. No. Fight for the things that are important, but don't fight all the time. You have to know that sometimes the decisions that are being made are because they know what they're doing, and there's been focus groups and they've done some research, and they know that the decision they're making is for the betterment of your book. And I know that's hard for some of us who think we know a lot of stuff, but it's just, you just have to trust the process and trust the person who put you in the process, which is our God. So if you can trust that, then those edits are a little easier. I'll never forget when I was on the writing side of things, I did a book called Love and Care for the One and Only You. And it was an ECPA finalist in the devotional category. I was so excited about that. But Pamela Clements, who I think is one of the industry giants, she was my editor at Worthy, probably one of the best nonfiction editors I've ever worked with. She's just amazing. She's so brilliant. Love her. But I didn't know her very well at that time. She was really nice to me. But I remember when they were trying to figure out what title they wanted to use. And the one that they used, I did not like. I'm like, could you make it any longer or more awkward to say? That's great. Love and Care for the One and Only You. It's like 25 words. Not only that, it kind of sounded like I don't know, some kind of therapy book. Obviously, I'm not a therapist. I probably need therapy, but I'm not a therapist. It wasn't that. It was like a funny health and fitness devotional. I didn't feel like any of the things that were in that book that did that title reflect. And so I pushed back with, like, I gave 18 other options. 18. You might say overkill, please. Yes, 18 other options at least. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I got that. Because she was like, what do you think about this? Well, first of all, now being on the other side, I know that you don't actually have to ask. I mean, she could have just made that decision and then let me know about it. But she was so kind and valued my opinion that she asked me. See, at the time, I thought that she needed my permission. Not so much. She really didn't, according to my contract. But I didn't see it that way. And I didn't act ugly, but I just was like so traumatized by it. I'm like, well, I mean, why don't they get my titles? Like, mine are so much cuter. And like, well, so I finally said to her, I got to be honest, I'm not a super big fan of the title that's been chosen. And she said, well, I understand that, but it's the one that we're going to go with. And I went, I said, so is there any room for like a negotiation? She's like, well, let me explain why we chose it. And she didn't have to explain anything. And so she told me that they'd had a focus group. They'd sent it out to these different people. Their research has shown that these particular keywords needed to be in the title based on all the things I said were in my proposal. And everything she said made sense. It was very methodical and very marketing minded. And I hadn't been thinking, I just thought it wasn't cute enough. Really, the cute wasn't on their standards for what to hit. So I had to just humbly say, well, okay, we'll just go with that then. And I still don't like it. Like, if you ask me, I still don't like that title at all, but it did well. And the book was a finalist in a major industry thing. And so I have to say, they know what they're talking about usually, because they didn't just pick a title out of the air and go, well, we like this better. We just want to squash Michelle's dreams and not use her title. That was not the goal. It was to make the book sell better and to let people find the book easier. I now understand that, being on this other side of the desk. So you have just, kind of just take a minute to breathe. And there's a chapter in mine and Bethany's book in our Platinum Faith book that says, to respond, don't react. Where you just, like, reacting is where you just kind of dump verbally on everybody and have a meltdown, and then you have to go back and repent later, or you should. But taking a minute to kind of breathe and respond and think through, try to see things from their side, that's good in all relationships, but especially in publishing, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to just know that they've got that, your best interest at heart. So that's 2, is just to try to keep the diva-ness down. Number 3 is timing is everything, especially when pitching a new project. I need you all to hear this, because this is something I did not know. And I didn't even know this until like just a year ago. And now I understand it so much. But okay, so as an author, this is kind of how I've always done things. And you let me know if this is how you've done things. You work your guts out to get the contract. You're like, yes, somebody loves the book, yay! And then you post the selfie, yay, I'm signing the contract, look at me, woohoo, okay, so excited, thank you, God. And then you do the work, which is not nearly as much fun, but you're doing the work and you're getting that done. And then when you finally finish and you hit the send button, we usually do a post, just hit the send button, woo! That is off my plate. Thank you, Jesus. Yes. And you send it off. And so we're done, like, for a bit, right? Like, we don't have to do any edits, won't come back overnight unless you're working with Hope, and they might actually come back overnight because she's that good and that quick. But usually it's going to be a bit. So you have time to just, go shop or go have lunch with your friends, or, actually go outside and see the daylight. Like, you have a little bit of time to actually live for a bit. So you're celebrating, but there's a window of that. And then usually what do we do as writers? Oh my, what's my next book? What's my next contract? What am I going to work on next? I mean, some people are not quite as crazy as me, but I like to have tons and tons and tons and tons of things on my plate. Like if I don't have 2 or 3 things on the back burners, I'm really nervous. I'm like, what is going on? Wendy, my friend, Wendy Lanier, who's here, she always says, nobody likes as many things on burners as you. She's like, no, thank you. But you do think about your next book. You do think about your next contract or your next publisher, or what do I need to do? Which conference I need to go to? Is that agent going to be there I want to meet? Like you start going through all the things, right? And so I think because of that, oftentimes once our work is done and we turn it in, we're like, all right, I'm putting together 17 proposals and we give ourselves deadlines by next Tuesday. And then I'm going to I'm going to reach out to my main publisher, which if, we like to stay in the same publisher, right? A lot of times. So I'm going to try to reach back out and see if maybe they want to do a spinoff on the book we just turned in. But what you're not realizing, and what I never realized, is that you just turned in your work. Well, our work just began on that book. So we just got your stuff in our hands. We're just now looking through it. And we are like going through and making it amazing and doing all the edits. It goes through 3 different kinds of editing. We are making sure if it's a children's book that the illustrations that are probably just now coming back match the words, and that if they don't, we have to send it back out to get fixed, not the words, but the art. And then it goes to layout, which is a whole other process. And layout takes a long time. And then we have to decide if we actually like the way we had originally figured out the cover, because now things change. And then what you don't know is maybe there's a paper shortage and we have to go from one publisher to another place. So we were going to get it printed in China, but now, nope, we're going to go to India, and that's going to push it back a week. And like all the things that we're dealing with. And then we get an email from you pitch another book. We're like, are you serious right now? We're just trying to get your first book out. Like you need to like, just go take a chill pill or something. I mean, you think we'd be like so excited. We're not excited. We don't want to see it just yet. We just don't. But there's no way for you to know that. So and no one's probably going to tell you. So I'm just going to tell you, like, as your older sister or something, don't do that. Like, it's okay to say to your publisher, hey, so excited to turn this in. Thank you for, for that, if you had extra time, whatever. And when you're ready, I believe I have a spinoff that'll be a great follow-up to this book. That's okay, or something like that. But don't just send the next proposal, because what's going to happen is it's just going to go into the submissions file, and we're not going to look at it for a bit. Here's the other thing about that. Yes, good, Brandy. Write for periodicals in that time period. Amen. That's exactly that's what we recommend. And now I'll talk about that in a minute. But yes, rather than looking for that next big book to work on and doing the proposal, you might want to be thinking about how to promote the book that you just wrote, right? Like all the things, figuring out how to do the launch team, and figuring out, if my book's going to come out in 7 months or in a year, then these magazines work 6 to 8 months out. So I need to send my query letters in now. That will be a much better use of your time than to just pitch that next book proposal. If you're wanting to sell that book. So we feel like as writers, many times our work is done once we send that send button until we get our edits back. But really, our other job is just beginning, which is we take that writer hat and put our marketing hat on, and that's different than the writing hat. And we have to start figuring out how we sell that book that we just asked this publisher to take a chance on. So it's a partnership. We don't expect you to do everything, but we do expect you to partner with us as we're promoting things. So all of those things. The other thing about the timing being everything is if that particular publisher that you're working with, if their submissions are closed, if it says closed for the season, there's a reason why it's closed. It means that we have all that we need for right now, or it means that we are in a season of crazy book launching or releasing and all of that. So we're not even going to have a chance to look at those and have our editorial team meeting to discuss future things, because we're just trying to make sure we get the fall list out. It's just different. I didn't know those things when I was a writer. I didn't know all the time frames, and I mean, we weren't privy to that information. So I'm letting you know there is a lot of flurry of activity going on that you never see, that is going to make your book get on the shelves of all the places you want it to be. But it's not just, it doesn't just happen. Like book fairies don't just come and drop them there. Like we've had to do a lot of legwork on the other side to make sure that happens. And you're pitching another project and we're like, okay, whoa. Like we love you. We just can't do that right now. Like it's going to just go in the submissions box with everybody else's. And so timing, when I say timing is everything, I remember being so like in angst. Like if I saw an editor that I wanted to work with, almost like, knocking her over in line for something to get to talk with her, and, trying to be real cool about it, but being almost desperate. Like, I just can't wait to talk with this person. And they may be my only shot that they do these kinds of books. And at writers conferences, and all of us have gone, and so many of us are faculty there. I'm sure you've been pitched things in the bathrooms and stuff. We all joke about it, but the reason that we pitch those things in bathrooms and that we almost knock people down to get their table and stuff. It's that feeling of, well, what's next? And it's a really human thing. We all do it. I mean, I can't tell you, I still don't feel that way. I don't have an agent right now. I parted ways with my agent in January. It wasn't ugly or it wasn't a messy thing. So don't be like, oh my gosh, I wonder what happened. No, it's just that I don't need him to pitch me to me, right? Like I'm going to probably accept it. And also with Victoria, so it was just, I mean, I wasn't keeping him very busy anyway. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. But so even as without an agent now, if I want to pitch to like some of my general nonfiction stuff for the children's market, I'm not as well connected in the general market with the children's crew of editors. So I probably will have to get another agent to do that part of my work and to pitch that. So, yeah, I'm thinking about that kind of stuff. Well, gosh, what should I do next? And like, I understand that sense of, it's almost like it's not pure desperation, but it is coated in fear. I will say that. And then, what I have to do is I have to get back into my word. And I have to remember that Proverbs tells me that he's directing my steps, and that all of this angst and all of this yearning and all that, he put this calling in me. And if he didn't, then I wouldn't be doing it anyway. So he did the same for you. And we have to just trust our careers to him and know that it's good to do all the things. I think it's important to get the work done, have that proposal ready to go when submissions open up or when the opportunity presents itself. Pray for those divine opportunities, but remember that God's kind of directing those steps, and don't be so worried or in fear about that next big gig that you can't enjoy the journey. I think that's what I would tell myself, my younger self, is to enjoy the journey a little bit more and know that every book that you get to get published is a gift. It's a gift. You know how many thousands of people would like to be doing what we're doing? They don't know how, they don't have the skills, or they've just never been able to make that commitment. If it were easy, everybody would be a writer. It's not easy. You all know that. It's a hard process, but we love it because we're just crazy people. We're just this special group that we get each other. Not everybody gets us, but we get each other. And I think if you just know that you're doing your best work, you've got everything ready for that opportunity, and then just pray for those divine moments, those divine opportunities, and let God direct your steps. Those are the times in my career when I've fully been all in and trusted him. It's when I take that back and go, well, I'm going to handle this right now, Lord. I feel like, I don't know if you're busy doing something else, but things are not happening as fast as I need to. So I'm going to handle this and you go do you. Like when I do that, that's when I'm in such turmoil and like worried, and I can't even, I'm just desperate. That is never, let peace be your umpire, right? That's what the word says. So if you're out of peace, just spend a little time with your Lord. That'll take care of it. But I say that because I know who we are, and it's great to be driven and motivated, because that's what makes us good as well. It makes us very productive and makes us ready when those assignments come. But it can also make us very miserable, not very peaceful, very desperate people, and that isn't attractive to anyone. So we just need to chill out, trust in the process, trust in the Lord, and be ready in season and out. But don't try to make the timing work for you. Just wait for the open window, right? So yeah. And then don't jump out that window. Wait for God to open, just I've been there too, but just it's going to be fine. I think the new project thing is probably the thing I've noticed the most, because I didn't realize how upsetting it is to the publisher to get another proposal right away when you haven't even proven that you could sell the first one. So that sounds terrible. You're like, what do you mean what do you mean proven? Well, it's not like if a book bombs that your career is over, because sometimes it's the climate. I mean, how many of you had books coming out in the middle of the pandemic? Hello. I mean, I had 2 released. Let me tell you, those numbers aren't great on those books. Nobody's numbers are great during that time. It was a crazy, everything shut down. And unless you're ordering toilet paper, nobody was selling anything, just toilet paper. It was just a thing. So I understand that too, right? That just happened. That happened. A couple of books came out during the pandemic. So the world realigned and things have never gone back to, I hate this new normal thing. Nothing's normal about where we're at now. But wherever we are in the industry, things have changed even since COVID. They continue to change and accelerate. But because of that, there are fewer people going to conferences, meaning editors and publishers. So I think that makes us even a little more to pounce on them. Oh my gosh, we've got some more people to talk to. So just take a breath and chill out and just trust the process. And then it is good to partner with your publisher on trying to sell that book. I say this in one of the training videos that we did. Bethany Jett and I did these training videos for Endgame Press. She purchased them. It's all the best stuff that we know in videos, and they're free to our authors. Thousands of dollars worth of training. I mean, Bethany has a marketing she's a master's degree in marketing and knows all of the things, like all the things. Sometimes she talks, I'm just like, I can't believe she's my friend. She just knows. I mean, you're getting stuff straight from her heart. I'm telling you all the old school stuff that has worked for me for years, and some of the stuff I've learned from her, some of the stuff I've learned being on this side of the desk. So we're giving you all the things. But I think one of the things I say in that is, listen, it's great to be working on the next book and book contract as long as you're continuing to allow time in your schedule to promote and sell the book that you just turned in, because you just have this window for that book launch and you don't want to miss it because you're too busy doing something else. And I understand because I've been there. So it's this balance, right? I remember this John Riddle. Some of you may know John Riddle. He used to run the Delaware Christian Writers Conference. He's got a couple of books out. I wrote the foreword for one of them. It has a flying nun in the title, but it's about freelance writing. He's one of the people that really kind of mentored me and one of the people I look up to in the industry. But John always said in his classes, when he taught this how to be a freelancer, was spend 50% of your time marketing and 50% writing. And I thought the guy had lost his ever-loving mind. I'm like, hi, I'm not a marketer. I'm a writer. I'm a purist. I'm a writer. This is what I do. I write. I don't know who you are, but I'm a writer. I was on this high horse. I mean, I was many years younger, but I didn't get it. And so I just wanted to call him on it. So, I like to fight. I like to argue a little bit. So we had lunch together at Wheaton University. And I said, so tell me about this 50% thing. I don't really get that. Like, are you really 50% marketing? He said, yeah, because if I don't do some marketing with the books that I've got coming out, and we'll get new contracts because they won't do well and the publisher won't want to work with me again. And then if I don't do marketing for new work, I won't have any other new work to come out, like getting my proposals ready and things like that. And I said, I just can't believe that. And I said, so you have time for writing? He goes, well, of course. He said, but I just balance it. I schedule it all out. I mean, I thought that was genius. Now I know how genius that really was and how important that is. So make time for all of it. Marketing is a completely different skill set. Yes, it sure is, Pam. We need to learn to do the best as we can. And who's the name? John Riddle. John Riddle's who I'm talking about. Yep. He has a freelance business. He's in Delaware. Bear, Delaware is where he used to live, somewhere in Delaware now. Great guy. Okay, so timing is everything. Look for those opportunities to pitch. Don't send your next book proposal in the minute that you turn in your manuscript, because no one's going to be like excited about it for just a little bit. And then work with your publisher to help sell the book that you just turned in. That's really important. I mean, you're going to have a different relationship with different editors. So if you have an editor that you're buddies with, it's okay to say, hey, I know I just turned in my manuscript. I also want to just put a bug in your ear that I have a spinoff. You probably forgot about it, but it's in the proposal. I'm going to be working on that. So when the time is right, I'll pitch, but I don't want to overwhelm you right now. Just kind of tread lightly. And to those who would like to run away from marketing because I've tried everything and no one except those editors who accepted individual article pays. Okay. So Catherine's got, so everybody, not everyone loves marketing. I get that. I so understand that. To say I love it would be a lie from the pit of hell. I don't love it. I've learned to do it and try to enjoy the journey, because here's what I've learned. Marketing it's important that you market, because the message that God put in you, if you're writing books that are important, is important for more than just you and your little tribe to read. You want everybody to read this book, or the people in your target audience to read this book, because it's important enough that you put the time in to write it. So that's why we're marketing. It seems like, look at me, but it's really not about look at me. It's really about look at the message in me. That's really how you have to look about it. That's what marketing is about. And so when you kind of look at it that way and know that you're really just marketing this important message in this book, yes, you're attached to it, and yes, you wrote it, and you have to be the one to do the little reels and things, but that makes it less creepy. Right. And then it's just, I know it's hard. I get it, but you'll get over that. I'll pray for you. Marketing is part of the deal now. This says, when you're new, it feels like I can't do all the things. It can be so overwhelming. I learned it's a process. I know much more than I did when I began. Yep, Jill, it is a process. It's a process. And when you're new, sometimes I remember when Beth and I would do those short game and long game calls with author clients who had books coming out. And the long game call, we told them all the things to be doing like 9 months to 6 months out. And they would be kind of like, woohoo, all right, I could do all these things. And when we got to the short game call, where it was like, we were just like a month out and these are things to do, I could see the fear, like all the blood drain from their face. They were like, why did I think I could do this? And we were like, hey, you don't have to do all these things. These are just some things that you could do. See which is a better fit for you. If you're not someone that feels good about making the reels and all the videos, then don't do them. I'm not saying like you have to do reels. I found that, that means I have to get ready every day. Like I'm not doing all of this probably every day if I'm not going to be on camera. It may be more of a ponytail, a little lip gloss, and put some eyelashes on and call it a day. I'm just saying, like, it's the day that you're all dolled up for something else, like maybe you went to church or you had a baby shower to go to or something, and you're already got everything in place and you're feeling like you don't look scary. Do a couple reels that day. I'll even change jackets and do a couple, like you'll think it's a different day, change some earrings and just do a couple of them, have them in the kitty for whenever I want to post them later on a day when I'm not looking more troll-like. So it's on those days, you might just tape a few. So there are some tricks to doing that. Use those good makeup and hair days too. Now for the guys group, you're like, seriously, Michelle, but it's a thing. Trust me. Take advantage of those. Okay. Yeah, change a jacket. Yeah, that's right. And earrings, that can make a big difference. Sometimes I'll put my hair up. I do all the tricks. All right. So the next thing is don't play favorites with your publishers, your books, your releases. And that is so hard because I have 9 different publishers. I've actually worked with 15, but there are 9 that I worked with more. And then there's 4 that I really did most of my stuff with. I was going back and look at the ones I worked with. And some of the ones I worked with are no longer in business, but I don't think it was my fault. It's just, people, bigger companies ate up the little companies. I think when I say that, I mean, if you have more than one book releasing in a year, and that's a great problem to have. So I have, last year, I had a book come out with Sky Pony Press, which is a division of Simon & Schuster. And it's called I Love You to the Sun and Beyond. I co-wrote it with Cecil Stokes. Some of you know Cecil Stokes. He's a movie guy. He did October Baby and A Man Named Pearl, and over 500 commercials. He's won an Emmy. Kind of a cool guy. We became friends at the Blue Ridge Mountains Christian Writers Conference years ago. Tori Martin and Cecil and I kind of all met at the same time. Anyway, Cecil and I decided to do this children's book together. We've written a couple. We've got the sequel coming out this year. But I had no idea when I signed a contract with Sky Pony that because of the paper shortage overseas, and you guys knew about that last year, right? Because of that, what happened is they pushed our release date out 8 months. So when they did that, it made it release the week after a book I've got coming out with Endgame. Oh no. So Our God is Bigger Than That released with Endgame Press that I wrote with Eva Marie Everson is now releasing exactly 7 days away from the one I did with Cecil. That is, you might think, well, that's a great thing. No, that is not a great thing. That is a terrible thing. I didn't know it was a terrible thing until I became an editor and I sat in with the publisher's side of things, but because there's no, what are you gonna have 2 launch teams? Like everyone's gonna hate your guts. And then like, not only that, you're promoting this book, but then this in just 7 days, you have to do the same stuff for this book. And there's no way to, it was just, so I made memes with both the books and stuff. I'll just make each publisher equally mad. There was just no way to just, I pushed the one that came out first a lot. And then, just on the heels that I'm going to be pushing this book. So I'm doing stuff with Eva. It wasn't a good thing. So, when you sign those contracts, sometimes there's a clause that says they want to know if you have any other books coming out at the same time they're scheduling your book. And I always wondered, why do they care? They're not the master of my life. They're not the boss of me. That was what I would think as a writer. I so get that now. It's not good for the writer, for the publisher, for anybody, because of your friends and family. Everybody's going to be just tired. You're going to wear them out. So when you have books coming out really, really close to each other, it's difficult, especially if you're more excited about one than the other. And let's be honest, there's always one you like better. It's kind of like you love all your children the same, but there are seasons where you like one a little bit better. You love them equally. You give your life for either, but sometimes there's one that might just be, harder. So you love them equally, but maybe you're going to promote this one a little bit more right now. It's that same way with our book babies. There's one like I love them equally, but this one just really resonates with me. And for me, it was Our God is Bigger Than That, because that is based on a story that happened with my grandson Bear. Wren and Bear Books, part of my company's named after Bear. And it was a life-changing moment for our family when they found out he had a brain tumor. And I'll never forget sliding down the hallway of the hospital, down the wall, and just being by myself because my husband was in Indiana. His mother was passing away at the same time that Bear just lots of things were happening. And we didn't know all the things that were going to happen at that point. We just knew Bear was in NICU, Abby was losing blood, his mama, and my mother-in-law was dying in another state. And I was there by myself in the hallway saying, God, where are you in all of this? And I called Eva Marie because she's my buddy and somebody I can trust. And also she was a nurse. Some of you don't know that, but she was a nurse. So I knew she could explain some of the terminology being thrown around. And after I told her all the horrible things that were being said, she, in her very calm Southern way, she said, you know what, Michelle, I'm not going to lie to you. These are some big things, but you and I both know that our God is bigger than all of that. Well, it was my marching orders. It was like she gave me a shot of faith right in the heart. I slid right back up that wall. I wiped my snotty face and I went back in there and I began to declare the word of God and pray over Abby. And it was like she flipped a switch in me by just speaking that to me. And I said to her after I could get my breath again, I said, we're going to write a children's book about that someday. And she's like, you're on. And we did. And it came out last year and we're so excited about it. So of course that book means more to me, not because I wanted it to, but because it does. So when that came out a week apart from the one I did with Cecil probably thought, yeah, thanks a lot, Michelle, because I did share more about our God is bigger than that. It's just, I know that that's hard. So I say this because you don't want to play favorites because you want Sky Pony to want to do another book with you, right? Or you don't want to let your co-author down on that book. So just make sure, sometimes it can't be prevented. Like in our situation, it can be prevented. It had to do with the paper shortage and them pushing the deadline back. But when that happens, try to make the best of it, promote equally, pay both the service and try to not play favorites. It's hard, but that's important because I can promise you at least mid-sized to smaller publishers notice. We do. We notice if you're not sharing stuff, if you're not excited about your book, because honestly, I'm as excited about Shannon Cook's book, the first book that came out in Wren and Bear, as I am my own book. I could not be more proud of her. I love her dearly. She is killing it with I Made the Earth book that's the first book for Wren and Bear. I mean, when she gets a number one in another category, like she did last night at midnight, I had to resist the urge to send it to her at midnight. I'm like, oh, she'll be asleep. She's not a crazy night person like me. I'll wait. So I sent it first thing this morning. Like I'm so excited. We are as excited, your publisher and your editors, about your books as you are. At least I think that any editor worth their weight is excited, and they want to see you succeed. So we want you to be as motivated as we are about getting it out there and getting the word out. So don't play favorites with releases and try to be equal in all things. And if you only have one book out, you're like, yeah, that's never going to happen. It will happen. And you'll remember this. You're like, Michelle told me. So just tuck that away if you've only got one book coming out or no books, because it will happen for you. The next one would be to take advantage of all the things that your publisher provides or that your editor provides. So if your editor says, hey, we've got these training videos, we've got 20 hours worth of free training about book launches and how to write query letters and target magazines and all the things that will help you promote your book, or all the things. We have this whole editing course that will help you as you do self-editing. Of course, we're going to put it through 3 different kinds of editing, but these are all things that as you're preparing your manuscript, they'll be helpful. Like if your publisher or your editor or both have provided all these things and then you don't watch them, it's very upsetting. It's just like, I mean, this isn't like a scolding thing, but it's just like, I didn't realize that because look, we're busy. We have other things to do. Like writing isn't our only thing. Like God comes first, and our husbands and our spouses and our children and our grandchildren. I mean, family has to come first. So writing is after all of that, right? That's whether it's a calling or a career, it's after all the other things. So life happens. We have other things happen. We have to move from time to time, and someone has an illness in the family. I've lived all of those things in recent years. So we're not saying, well, if you didn't watch all the videos, then you don't care. That is not it. But it's great to just see effort that this is the thing. When we get questions, sometimes we'll get a question, something crazy. I can't think of a specific, well, I'll think of one where someone will say, hey, what are you going to do for my book launch? Well, what am I going to do for your book launch? I'm going to cheer you on, sister. I'm going to share your memes and I am going to share, but your publisher's not going to, we're not going to build your website or we're excited, man. We want it to do well. And we are going to do we're doing all these other things like running ads in Story Monster magazine. And we're sending your thing out to all these library, big library lists and all the things that we know that you can't do. We're doing all of that. The things that cost a lot of money, we're doing all those, but you need to do some of those things. And or if we get like a question that will get a specific question that's answered in the videos, you want to go, well, that will be on video 3. Have you watched the videos? I never say that because that sounds so snarky and mean, but I think it. So I still have to repent because I'm like, why didn't you just watch the videos? It's like, that's a whole video about that, because anything I tell you is, I said it better in the video because we worked really hard on those. So if there's training out there and then they're providing it for free, man, get on that, watch that, listen to it, multitask like Oprah, while you're folding laundry or while you're cooking dinner or while you're out doing your hike, just, listen to it in your headphones in and you'll know more stuff and it'll help you and it'll help your publisher and we can tell who's watched them and who hasn't. Not like I'm going in and going, Well, she gets a gold star because she watched him, but we actually do give away perks if you watch all the videos. And I thought we really shouldn't have to give away awards for people to watch the videos because we did it for them anyway. If they don't want them, I mean, that's okay. But then probably you shouldn't ask a question that's on the videos. All I'm saying, so I'll say about that. But if your publisher's giving you something, like don't kick a gift horse in the mouth. Is that the expression? Just be excited to maybe partake in some of that because it helps everybody and it'll keep your publisher more sane. Okay. The next one, that's all I'm going to say about that. I feel like Forrest Gump. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right. Missing a deadline can be quite costly. All right. Now, listen, I have missed a deadline this year, so much so that I will probably have to buy Rhonda Ray a new wardrobe or something. Like I take her to dinner, I don't even know, give her a grandchild, I missed that so badly that there's no way to repent for it. Luckily Rhonda's the nicest person I know. But I had no idea how much time doing this Wren and Bear thing would take. And I'm also a part of the core team Endgame Press. So I do a lot of editing for the children's and a lot of the other things that Vicki doesn't do. So I didn't budget well. So this is, I'm telling you this to me and to you, budget your time wisely. If you've got a book coming out and you know it's going to take the X amount of hours to promote it, and you know you've got to finish this other book that you are under contract, make allowances for crazy life stuff because no one plans for COVID, right? That happened to one of my illustrators, the one that's doing Cecil's book. So we're probably gonna have to push back the release date a little bit. He doesn't even know yet. I haven't told him. I hope he doesn't watch because I'd like to tell him in person. But it's, those are the things because she had COVID. And so no one goes, man, I better work in a week for COVID, but it happens. And, sometimes it takes way longer than a week to recover from that. A month, 2, 6 year it takes. So things happen, illness happens, life craziness happens. And we had a situation after Allie had Knox that happened to us. It was a legal thing. And every emotion I had was involved in that, trying to help my daughter. There's just things that happen that you can't predict. So when you're kind of looking through your calendar and if whatever planner you use, build in time for crazy stuff to happen. Because it probably will. And if it doesn't, you'll just turn it in early and they'll think you're amazing. So just budget in time for deadline craziness. Because here's the other thing, whether you are very spiritual or not, spiritual warfare is a real thing. I can tell you from past experience and from having walking through some stuff, especially if your message is super important and it's, man, God's going to use it mightily. Many times there's going to be attacks. There's going to be things happen. That's why we have prayer teams that pray over us and over our families and over the message that God's put in us, those kinds of things. So you have to know that could be taking place and then just make allowances for it. Be prepared for it as much as you can so that you don't miss deadlines. Because what I didn't know till I got on this side is that Amazon penalizes you monetarily in other ways if you have to push back release dates once it's been posted on Amazon. There's so many things I didn't know, and maybe you didn't either, but there are lots of things that happen. So we build in some time in our schedules in case a writer has to be late on a deadline or, COVID happens for our illustrator or whatever it is, if it's a children's book. We also build that in, but sometimes it's not enough because things happen on our end too with I told you about the paper shortage and some things happen. They gave away our paper for one of our books. They gave it away. It was reserved for us and they gave it to somebody else. That'll make you lose some sleep. Those kinds of things. Some things can't be prevented, but planning ahead will help alleviate some of that stress and make it easier for you to not miss a deadline. I guess I just want you to take deadlines more seriously than a suggested turning in time. It's more than suggested. It's a deadline because if you miss yours, everybody else misses theirs. It pushes everything back. And I think the older I got, the more entitled I became. I'm just repenting before God and everybody. In the last few years, God has jerked a real knot in my tail, and I'm still sorry about it. I'm glad I had this revelation, but I thought, after I'd done so many books and things that if I turn my note later, it'd be okay. It's never okay. We have to be professionals and just know that I never want to cause anybody pain or undue stress. And by just nonchalantly not making a deadline, it does all of those things. So it hurts our integrity and it probably won't get you another assignment. And it's just not godly. So things happen. And I'm not saying if you miss deadline, oh my gosh, it's the worst thing in the world. But don't do it. Try not to. I'm there with you trying not to. So budget in time. And I'm the worst planner. I'm getting so much better. See, Bethany's got me on this happy planner. She's so proud of me right now. So I have like 3 planners going, and it's even pretty because I use some of the cute stickers and stuff that she told me about. But if it's not in my planner, it doesn't exist in my world. But I don't know what you guys use, what system, but I have this planner. See how, look, Bethany, if you're watching, look, isn't it pretty? You're so proud of me right now. But I have everything written in there. Everything. So, and I actually on the side, because the way this one is, I have a whole page where I can just budget in time for things. Yes, that's why a planner is important. Of course, you have to actually know something's happening before you write it down. But write it down, make a plan for the things that you don't know is going to happen. So if it does, you're covered. Okay, let's go through the next ones pretty quickly. This is just a thing in general about whether you're a writer or a publisher, because it's the last one. It's just to be grateful. I think I said this earlier, but anytime that you get a book contract, it's a gift from God. I see that more and more. I remember Crystal Bowman saying that. I don't know how many know Crystal, but she's probably one of my favorite people in the whole world. I don't think there's very many people smarter than Crystal or more kind or more of a professional. I just love her. I look up to her in the industry so much. I always have. And now that I know her more, like as a colleague and a friend, I can't believe she's my friend. Like she's one of those people. So, but I heard her say once in a seminar that I took, I was sitting in the back of the room taking voracious notes because anything she says is like gems of wisdom. And she said, consider every book contract that you get as a gift from God. Consider it a gift, because so many people want one and don't have the opportunity. So if God's giving us opportunity, don't squelch it. And I thought, man, that is true. So whether it's your first book or your 118th book, be just as grateful and just as excited that for such a time as this, that your book is releasing because somebody needed it. God chose you to write it for this time because somebody needed it. So it's kind of a neat responsibility. It can feel weighty at times, but it's also such a gift. So be grateful first to your God, secondly to your colleagues and your family who have to put up with you and you're on deadline, for all the people that share your stuff on your launch teams, to your editors and publishers who took a chance. Like a picture book, when we're budgeting things, it's like no less than 30,000. Like that's minimum what we put into a picture book. $30,000. Who else would invest $30,000 in you? Like that's somebody that they're putting their money on you. That's how much they believe in you and what your book means and the message that it has. So when you think about those things, it makes you grateful. It kind of humbles you that somebody would believe it up. I guess the bottom line is, and all these points is that you're on the same team. It's a family. We're all in this together. Editors, publishers, writers, marketers, layout people. We're all in it together, and we all have the same passion, because we wouldn't be in this if we didn't. We're in it because we love to write. We love to see the messages that are important for kids and for adults to get out there for such a time as this. Otherwise, we just go fish and play with our grandkids. I would. So it's a calling for most of us. And so when you realize that your editor is not your enemy and your publisher didn't do that just to be snarky and they don't like you as much as somebody else. No, they're just busy, and they are investing in you, not only monetarily, but you're not seeing all the nights and all the late hours they're putting in so that your book will be amazing. Not just because they like you, because they probably do, or they wouldn't work with you, but because they believe in you and in your message. It is an investment in time and in heart. I got to tell you, when I see any of the in-game authors things being nominated for awards and stuff, I'm like, I am so very excited. I can't even, Vicky and I call each other. We're like, did you see? Like, we are just thrilled. I'm flying to California for an awards conference, IBPA, because Nancy Sanders' book, Bedtime with Daddy, is up for an award. And so is Renee Kennedy Leonard's book, her book about grief after the flowers die. I don't have one that made it to finals. I don't care. I'm so excited for them. If they'll let me bring my pom-poms, I will do so. Like, I am so proud of them. What a cool thing to be that. Like, this is a general market contest that they were recognized in. And I just so happy. So I'm just saying, be that person, be that cheerleader, and know that everybody's on the same team and that we all have the same heart looking for that same end result. Now, if you're working with publishers who don't treat you like that, then it's time to get a different publisher, because I've worked with some like that. So I know you're going, no, I don't think that's true, Michelle. Yeah. And guess what? I've moved on from those, because I want to work with people, especially at this time in my life, who believe in me as an author, believe in the message, and want to work with me, not against me. So that's all I've got to say about all of that. There's been lots of comments. I couldn't keep up with all of them, but those are the 7 things I wish I'd known, at least to a greater extent, from the writing side before this past 2 years, because I think I would have been a better person and a better friend, a better supporter, a better teacher, a better writer, a better anything had I known those things. So I just wanted to share them with you, not to ball anybody out or make you feel bad or think, oh my gosh, I hope she's not talking about me. That was not why I said any of that. It's just so that you kind of see it from the other side. Anytime that you're in conflict resolution, or anytime that I remember when we went through premarital counseling, Jeff and I, we married 33 years, so I guess it took. But I remember our pastor, Mark, saying, you always want to see things from the other person's perspective. And I remember thinking, I never thought about that. I was an only child pretty much. I mean, that's not really true. I have an older brother and sister, but I was raised like an only child. They're 15 and 17 years older than me. I was pretty spoiled. So, and Jeff was an only child. So you can imagine it was like, doop, 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 you know, button heads a little bit. And to think, like, to see things from his perspective, and that had never occurred to me. Never, not because I didn't love him. I was like, oh yeah, well, you're right. There's probably another way to look at this. So, so just do the same thing with your publishers and editors. That's it, Johnny. That's all I've got to say.
That's a lot. I mean, it's been wonderful. People are wondering if you ever took a breath, and I was like,
not usually. Nope.
Michelle. I also kind of lost track of comments and things. So I'm going to ask people to come in. If you have a question and we missed it, please feel free to ask it. If we put you in what we call writer's chat jail, let us know so that we can get you back again. I just appreciate start popping back on though. Feel free to do that. I appreciate everything you said, and just kind of want to reiterate a couple things. Some of you know that, my agent called me out of the blue probably about a year ago now and said, Guidepost wants to offer you these 2 contracts. And it's like, oh, wow, that's wonderful. But it was because an editor had moved from one publisher to another publisher. I mean, so those things happen, and she liked my work and she liked working with me. And when she went to somewhere else, she thought of me, and it was years since we worked together. So you do want to be that kind of author, because then those kinds of things will happen. It's just great to be easy to work with. And of course, the deadlines are so important. And I am dying from deadlines right now, but I've got one more to get through, and I think April is that deadline, and then I'm going to take 3 weeks of no writing time, and I cannot wait.
Yay!
Yes, these last few days as I try to get this book done. Okay, so does anyone? Oh, Sandra has her hand raised, I see, but then you all help me sort of, Melissa and Brandy help with questions and making sure we get everybody. Sandra, go ahead.
Yes. Michelle, I have a question. I do have a book being published by a traditional publisher, but I'm just wondering, how far out do they let you know the publishing date so that you can start doing all the things that you're supposed to do?
We put it in our contracts. Usually it's in your contract of when it's going to be released. Yeah.
Okay. Mine isn't.
Yeah, I would. That is odd. Yeah, it's usually in the contract with every publisher I've ever worked with. It's been in the contract, because there's all these things that revolve around that. Like because I usually had things in my contracts that, as a writer, that would say, like, if I missed a deadline, I had to pay this or whatever. So there was always a date, a release date, a due date, a release date, those kinds of things. So if there's a marketing person or an author care person or somebody at your publishing house, I would reach out and just say, hey, and I would just present it like that. Hey, not to bug you or anything, but I just want to make sure I don't miss a window of opportunity for promotion. Is there a forecasted date for when it's going to release, so that I can start getting things in order on my end to partner with you in promoting it? If you promote it, I mein, they're going to be excited that you wrote it like that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, and congrats on your book. I know which one that is. I think it's going to be amazing.
Yes.
I know she was in my class and I got to read the proposal. It's really good.
We have a question in the chat. What advice do you have for debut authors?
So I think the best thing that you could do as a debut author is to follow Josie Seiler's model. Josie, are you in here? She killed it with the Howie book, Howie's Broken Hee Haw. She, first of all, Josie's an amazing person and somebody everybody wants to be friends with. So she's easy to love, but she did all the things right. She got involved with all of the donkey groups on Facebook. She, I can't see a donkey and not think of Howie. Can you? She's branded herself beautifully. She's done all the events she can do. She's taken time to get to know other people and to cross promote. She still continues to do periodical articles and things for online publications. she's entered contests, and our publishing house actually enters a lot of contests for our writers, saves them a lot of money, which is nice. But all of those things, she actually taught a course for one of our virtual Kidlit conferences that Endgame Press did. She was one of our speakers. I think it was last October, and it was an amazing workshop. Josie, I thought it was so good. It was all the things that she wished she'd known kind of before she became a writer. And I'm now a writer, but before she became published. Bethany and I did a long game and a short game call with her when we had Platt Lit. And she was just somebody who just, not everybody takes the advice, but she did everything and then some. I think I think I would follow Josie's model. But the things that she did that were good is that she realized who her audience was. She figured out kind of her brand, and then she just built on that. She's just building out from that. And now, because she's done such a great job, she has a second book coming out with Endgame. It's a Howie devotional. It's a devotional about animals and Howie's leading the way, because everybody loves Howie. I mean, she has like a fan club everywhere she goes for Howie. So I think in the same way that people, when they see dachshunds, they think of me. I mean, I get tagged in every dachshund thing out there. That makes me so happy. It means that I've done a good job of promoting dachshund through the snow, and because I am obsessed with dachshunds also before I wrote that book. So I think those are some things you want to do, is just make sure that people kind of know what you're talking about. Be out there talking about whatever it is that is in your book. Don't wait till the week of launch to start talking about. Talk about it during the time that you're working on it. I think that Bethany's always said, show people your process as you're writing, show them glimpses of your home office and show them, where do you write best? Is it on the porch? Is it like, by the beach? Where is it that you get your creative bursts of energy, and just show people that process, invite people into your world. And the more that they get to know you and care about you, they're going to care about your message. So they'll want to help promote you. So those are some things you can kind of do just to promote kind of your brand. And then when your books come out, people will be more apt to want to help you share. So that's one. There's so many things for a debut author that maybe the next thing would be just to be really educated on all the things, because there's no way you're going to know all the things. But some of the things that you'll need to know are like things about launch teams and how to contribute. Find out from your publisher what's expected of you, or what they have in place, or maybe like a frequently asked questions thing on their webpage. Go read that. See what you can do. One of the rules that we always had as journalists, whenever I teach a class about interviewing, is you never want to ask the obvious questions. If it's something you can find out about that person, the celebrity that you've got 15 minutes with, don't ask them something you can go Google and find out in 5 minutes. Ask them the things that nobody else has ever written about, or the things that people want to know about. Ask the things that nobody else has answered. It's kind of the same thing. If you ask all the questions to your really busy editor that's already on the website under frequently asked questions, that can be annoying to your editor. Not that they don't love you, but they're like, seriously, could you just go read the FAQs? That'd be really good. So it's just, you just want to, don't be afraid to ask things, but just do some research on your own too, so that we can all make the best use of our time and like get this book out and make it amazing. I hope that was helpful without sounding snarky. I don't mean to sound snarky. I'm just being real with you, because
No, that's great.
Okay, I wanted people to, I think if we're not real, then nothing gets done. So but yay for debut authors. I love debut authors. I've got 2 contracts with debut authors. Very excited.
Sophie.
Hello. To follow up on that, I'm going to be a debut author, whatever. I can't even say it. And I'm trying to prep. I submitted in my synopsis, I included that it was a trilogy. They said they wanted to take it as a standalone, which I was like, I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
And so I have been trying to sort of work on books 2 and 3, which were already started. But also I've gotten a couple of other, I love prompts, I love ideas. And so I start these things, and I try to focus on what is the most practical use of my time.
Yes.
And so my mind says they don't want to sign a trilogy with a debut author because they want to see what the ROI is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, is it going to be worth it? They don't want to contract me if I go nowhere with book 1, or if I'm difficult to work with, or whatever. So would you recommend focusing on books 2 and 3, regardless of their commitment, just so I have some, like, when do I pitch that even to my current publisher? Do I do that when it launches or before it launches?
So, and every publisher is probably going to be different, what their timelines are, what they work. I only know what ours are at Endgame, but I think probably not before it launches. If it was in your proposal, they're probably aware, right, that it is. I don't know if their submissions are open or closed. If their submissions are open, they may have a different editor for submissions than they do for the one that's really working on your book. I tend to like to talk to the one that I've already got a relationship with, right? So when your edits come back and all of that, and you've done all the work and you've turned everything in, that's usually when their biggest part, their busiest part to get your book out happens. So that's not the time to pitch it. That's when they're like, oh my gosh, just go have a, chill pill. So I would wait a little bit, right? I would just, maybe all of your effort could be towards promoting that first book. And I think it's different for fiction. You fiction authors know than children's or even gift books or nonfiction. Sometimes it's harder to promote a fiction book. It is a different experience. There are some things you can do, but yeah, to continue to promote that. And then I'm not saying don't work on book 2 and 3. I'm just saying don't pitch it right away. If they're probably aware that there's a trilogy if it was pitched like that, and you're exactly right. They're going to wait to see how it does, because you don't want to have all of your eggs in that basket if that's not going to work out. So, and you're right. You said if they're difficult to work with, yeah. I'll tell you this right now, and I'm just being completely transparent with you, if there are 2 proposals that come in and both authors are equally talented, and I even like one book a little bit better than I do the other one, but I know that this person is like really hard to work with, I'm so going for the other one just because life is too short to work with difficult people. I'm just telling you right now. I'm just not like, that's just, I'm over 50 now. I don't have to, so I'm not. But if they're both really good, I'm going to go with the one that's just makes me happier, because I'm going to be working with them a lot. And I don't, why would I ask for the stress of my life? I'm just not going to do it. So I think it's really true what Johnny said. When you are a professional and you're the person that turns the extra things in and turns things in early and tries to work with it, and just as a professional and is easy to work with and doesn't whine about everything, that reputation will precede you, as well as if you're one of the difficult ones. People will not want to work with you. So when Johnny's editor goes to another house and they already work with her and they know she's lovely and wonderful, of course they want to bring her with her. That's how I've gone to all the different houses, because it's very transient business, this publishing thing. Someone moves from another house to another house, and then you pitch that house, they're like, oh yeah, we love Michelle, bring her. You don't want to be like, well, I'll tell you one thing, I'm never work with her again. You don't want that to be the message that's associated with your name. So exactly what both you and Johnny said, that is true. So I would just be as lovely as you are and continue to work hard to promote it and all of those things. And then I feel like you'll know. I just always pray for that opening to be able to pitch, as a reminder, I've got books 2 and 3 ready to go, and just continue to work on those, when you're not marketing and stuff. It's not like you should stop working on them, so that if your first book kills it and does amazing, they're going to be like, hey, we want to talk about that trilogy. You'll be like, all right. Yep, I've got that. I'm pretty much through book 2, right? So I think that you want to be ready in season and out, but you want to put most of your effort towards the marketing and stuff right now, just because if that first book doesn't do well, they're probably not going to ask for 2 and 3.
And a different follow-up question is, I have my first grandson, he just turned 2, and it's wonderful. And of course, I'm like writing little stories for him.
Yeah.
And like, my novel is science fiction, and I do editing with Havoc in science fiction. So this is a little bit of a different genre and audience. But do I pursue that or not? My son is a graphic designer, but he's so slow, it's ridiculous. I love him, but it's like, let's make these books for Lincoln, Mom and Grandma. No, it's not happening. Is there room to pitch the different genres at this point?
So that is a really good question. If you are doing something completely different and then you want to do a picture book or a board book because things have changed for you, like you have your first grandchild. I mean, Stephen James is a great example of that. I mean, he writes thrillers, like, it's like, it would be like having Stephen King, write a board book. You'd be like, well, maybe not. But so Stephen James is like one of my favorite authors. I absolutely adore him. And he's pitched me some of the cutest children's book. We're trying to figure out, like, well, do I need to put a pen name on that? Like, I don't know. So I'm not really sure the answer to that, but I can tell you I've written in different genres. I mean, I write nonfiction, and I write gift books, I write devotionals, and then I write children's books. I write both nonfiction and fiction and children's books. But those are not as much a stretch as maybe fiction for adults and kids fiction. But like Eva Marie Everson did that. She does Southern fiction and she's done some nonfiction, and then she just did the children's book with me. So maybe the way to do that, to break into it, is to partner with somebody who's already established in children's. That's a good way to kind of sneak in there. Also, if there's something STEM wise that you could do, like if you're into sci-fi and there's some, maybe you've got some cool science things that you put in your science fiction. STEM is huge right now, especially in nonfiction children's books. Maybe that would be a kind of a natural progression to maybe break into some of that. I never want to say don't go where the Lord is leading, because just because you've never written there doesn't mean that you can't or shouldn't. It might be different. There are different seasons for different things. It might be a little bit harder to promote at first because people associate you with your fiction, your sci-fi stuff, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. There are always ways to make it happen. If you feel led to do that, I say go for it.
Great, great. Any other questions?
Stephen James should just go with Stevie James for children's.
That's a good idea. I would go for that. Yeah, it's a little less scary, I think. And
it's still his name.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I'll suggest that. See how that goes.
Jill had asked, I think, to clarify when we were talking about the deadlines being, or the release dates being put in contracts. I want to make sure I'm saying this right. The release dates in the contracts, that's for fiction or nonfiction, right? That it should be in there one way or the other.
It should be. It has. I mean, I've never done fiction for adults, but in my fiction for kids, it's always been in my contract, whether it's Worthy or Tommy Nelson or whoever it's with. And there's a reason for that, because they're planning all their things based around that date. But also it makes all my deadlines very clear based on this. Because what happens is you pick a release date, and then all the other things that have to happen before that release date. I hate spreadsheets, but now I have to use them. Bethany's totally mocking me right now. But we have spreadsheets for all the other dates that have to happen before that release happens. So that's why we have that, because we have to all figure that out prior to the release. So we're aware of the release date. It should be in your contract. If it's not, I would definitely ask.
Yeah. I think I contract before too, like it'll say something like there would be a release date, but they would also say like give themselves a little bit of an out, but it still had to be within like 2 years or something like that.
You're right. Yeah. For things like paper shortages and stuff that can't be helped. Yeah.
That may not be anybody's fault. Okay. We have a question. I'm just curious on does a new writer, like the person asking, approach an agent, editor, or a publisher to tell them about their book? So again, this is going back to wanting to be a debut author, I guess. And some of the answers are go to a conference. And yes, that would be a great thing to do. But Michelle, for those who might not have conferences nearby, what's your advice about approaching someone out of the blue? Kind of like a cold call, I guess.
Yeah, cold calls are tough. And anybody who's ever been trying to find an agent or a publisher through just the Writer's Market Guide, those are great. They're great tools to have. I'm glad we have them, but they're not always the most effective way to actually get into somebody's actual email box and not have an intern just putting a Dear Writer drop dead letter on it. Like, it's just harder, right? Because there's so many people using those. I think it's really important to go to writers' conferences. I think you budget for that. It's an investment in your career, but it's the way that you get face time with those editors. I'm much more apt to publish somebody that I've met in person than somebody just coming. We get tons of stuff through the slush pile, hundreds. And some of them are good, but I'm like, do we know this person? How do we know this person? And so we're asking, did you tell them to send, like, were you at this conference? Like it is better if you have that face time where there's some kind of a connection. And it doesn't have to, sometimes there are virtual conferences, not just the in-person ones that are more, they have a lot of these hybrid conferences now. Like I know the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference is doing like a hybrid where you can go in person, or Blue Ridge did that. Lots of conferences are doing that. So even if you can't get to a conference because of the expense or a disability or something, you can even partake in the online virtual conferences and still have that FaceTime. There's, like, I know with Endgame, when we have ours, we have like a lunchtime chat and Q&A where we get to know some writers and maybe we've never met in person, but we feel like we know them because we have lunch with them virtually and chat it up. So that's one thing you can do. Other than that, I think it's just, one of the things I would do is I would go to all the conferences I wish I could go to, I can't go to all the conferences, and I would look at what editors and agents were going to be there. And the one I really wanted to meet, that would be the conference I would put my money into, because for that particular agent. Now, if I couldn't go there, I would actually reach out to that particular agent or publisher and say, I wanted to go to this conference simply because I wanted to meet you. Really, there's nothing else there that I was worried about. I just wanted to go to meet you. I believe that we'd be a good fit, and here's why. You can kind of play that card that you were going to go to that conference, but you just can't go this year, but you want to go simply because they were going to be there, that you'd love to be able to work with them. I think that goes a long way. Schmoozing, you schmooze or you lose, they say in the industry. So I think a little flattery goes a long way. So that's a suggestion.
Here's a good question. What are the norms and expectations on communication between editors, agents, and authors? Does all communication go from agent to editor, or is it different for each unique editor, agent, author relationship? Jenny, that's a really good question.
That's a really good question. And I do think it's unique to every editor, and whether the writer and the editor were friends before they got an agent and those kinds of things. Like some of the people that I'm working with, it would be weird to go through the agent, because we're like bestie kind of things, right? It'd be weird, but it's also not good to not include the agent in those important emails. So that's one of the things we discussed at Endgame, is making sure, even if we're friends with those people, is to always copy the agent on. Now, if we're just talking about, hey, what dress are you going to wear to the awards banquet? They probably don't want to be copied. But if we are saying some important things about, this is happening, we want you to be a part of this. Because of this is an opportunity that we could present for you at NRB. We'll have a publicist there. Would you like, those are the ones you want to copy the agent on. So I think it's good for everybody to be on the same page. I know with Andy Clapp as an agent, and he's also a good friend, and he agents some of our writers, but we're friends with both the writers and the agents. So sometimes they're not really professional emails. They're just like giving somebody a hard time over whose team won the night before. But even in all that, I think it's important to keep everybody in the loop. If it's an important communication, the agent needs to be copied. Especially, here's the thing too, that protects you as a writer. If you're friends with your editor and your publisher, which is a good thing, but there's a sticky point in the contract, or there's something that you need to address, something you need to fight for, that's not going to, maybe you're worried about ruffling feathers, that is for sure an agent thing. You have to be copied in it, but it kind of protects you, because you can't play good cop and bad cop. It's just, you can't. So it's better to have your agent go be the bad guy, and you can still be the lovely person you are, and you can blame it on your agent. I'm just kidding. But it's good to have your agent kind of go fight that battle for you, because that's what they're supposed to do. Or ask those awkward conversations, ask those awkward questions about, hey, she didn't get it, my client didn't get the check yet. Could you tell us where that's at? It might be that the check was lost, but if you never asked, we wouldn't even know, right? So those are some things that's better for the agent to ask. So I think it probably is unique for each situation, but on our end, we definitely should copy the agent, if you have an agent, on all of the communication that's pertinent to the project, unless it's just a friendly banter.
All right. Well, we are going to wrap up, because we've already gone ended our after party time, but this is so great. So thank you for coming. We just need to have you back more often.
Well, thank you for having me. And I love to see all your faces, and I'm glad to be a part of your community. And thank you, Johnny, for asking me.
We're so glad to have you. Thank you. And I think Vicky's going to be joining us at some point. We're still working out.
She's amazing.
So, founded Endgame Press, went from being a writer to a publisher. So that will be perspective too. Melissa, I'm going to turn it over to you for next week.
All right. Yeah. Next week, Patricia Tiffany Morris is going to join us to talk about time blocking. So she'll be sharing a little presentation there about what it is and how it can help you as a writer, and kind of share a few little tools with us too to help implement that. So we're looking forward to learning more about that too.
Wonderful, wonderful. And it's a lot of new faces today. We're so glad you're here. Some familiar names I hadn't seen in a while. So glad that you folks are here too. We invite you to join us every Tuesday morning. If you're watching the replay, we're here. That's when we record Tuesday mornings at 11 Eastern, 10 Central. We invite you to join our Facebook group and check out the Facebook page, Writers Chat Facebook page, because you'll see all the episodes that we record. And you talk about free training. We have built over the last 7 to 8 years, there's a lot of information there. And of course, some of it does change as time goes on, but you can find a wealth of information. We have great guests, and it's terrific. So I'm going to say goodbye to everybody and stop the recording, but you can hang out for just a few more minutes on the after party. So bye, everybody, and thank you for being here.